guys are all doing well. I am Chase. Welcome to class. Sorry we're running a little bit late here. It's always a little hectic on class number 1. I know some of you guys have already joined us for the bonus class, so for those that have already been here, welcome back. Like I said, I am Chase. Your teaching assistant for the class is Owen. Owen, can you introduce yourself, guys? If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, can everybody do that now for me? I think you have to be subscribed in order to chat. And if you already are subscribed, you should see a chat feature in the top right-hand corner. Can everybody just say hello so I know who's here? And then I'm going to post one more time in the group for everybody to make sure that you guys know that everybody knows that we're live. Okay? But again, as you guys come on, as you guys log on and hear that last announcement, can everybody just confirm that they have joined the group? Guys, again, as you guys log on, please just say hello so we know who's here. You guys should see a chat feature. I just posted the link again for everybody that's logging on. We're going to take a few seconds here. Oh, there's Owen. Right, we're going to take a few seconds here, guys, just to make sure that everybody has a chance to get on and get introduced, and just to make sure that you guys have all your materials. So a couple things. First, I posted the A11 test. Hi, Yana, welcome. I posted the A11 test in the group earlier today, and it's also the same test that we've been using for the bonus lessons, for those that have joined us for the bonus lessons. Can everybody make sure that they have that A11 test printed out? If you have a printer, I'd really appreciate it if you could print it out now. We won't jump into it for the next 10-15 minutes, so if you guys could print out the A11 English test, that would be great. Again, that was posted earlier today, and it was also posted prior to this for those bonus lessons. So can everybody print those out and then give me a thumbs up when you guys have those printed out? Can everybody just again, say hello if this is the first time that you guys are logging in? I just want to make sure that everybody has access to the classroom group and knows how to chat and knows how to participate. So again, guys, if you guys can give me a thumbs up or a hello, I'll talk a little bit about Owen and his expertise as not only as a student and somebody that you guys can certainly ask questions of, sorry guys, but not only to ask questions of, but also to just get some advice from. You know, questions certainly relating to the ACT, but Owen was in your position not too long ago, and he is certainly a phenomenal resource, not only for these testing, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second as everybody logs in, but also just as a person and somebody that you guys can really look to and somebody that's done it the right way. So I encourage you guys to ask Owen any questions. He'll be with us for the extent of the summer. And again, guys, as you guys log in here, just make sure that you say hello. I just want to know that everybody is everybody's available, that everybody's here, that everybody's logging in. And then again, the two things that I want you to have with you today are the English. So if you don't have your test, or sorry, if you don't have your tutorial, your ACT tutorial, looks something like this. It's a big red book, right? If you guys don't have this, it's red, not blue. Okay, I'd like everybody to use the digital files that were posted for the English section. Just have those open on your computer. And then in the meantime, that same test, that A11 test that we used for the bonus classes, I'd like everybody to make sure that you guys have that A11 test printed, just the English section, if that's all it takes. We're not going to get to that until like maybe 15 minutes into, 20 minutes into class. So please make sure that you download that. It's in the files section of the Facebook group. Okay, so please make sure that you guys download that before we officially get started. For those that are just logging on, again, please make sure that you say hello. We do track attendance in the class to make sure that you guys are participating. And obviously when parents reach out and they're like, well, why didn't the score go up? It's pretty easy to go back and just say, well, we didn't know if they were even in class for any of the time. So please make sure that you say hello, as Yana did. If you guys don't see the chat, you have to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and then the chat, you refresh the page, the chat should show up in the top right-hand corner. If it doesn't, then just send us a message on Facebook or send an email, just so we know that you're here, and hopefully we can figure out the issue, but it should work. I think it's working for Owen here, it's working for Yana, so I think you guys should be okay, and I know that it worked for a lot of, for a number of students while we're doing the bonus classes as well. Okay, so we'll just wait here for a second. Because it is the first class, we will give everybody a chance to log on. And again, ask any questions you have. Can everybody give me a thumbs up as well? Can you guys give me, Yana, can you give me a thumbs up to make sure that you have the A11 test printed out for English? Can everybody give me a thumbs up to make sure you guys have the A11 test printed out for the English section? There might be a, there shouldn't be a lag, guys, too. If you guys click the live button, so just a few features to let you, to make you aware of. If you ever feel like it's lagging, we're actually on a pretty low latency. Okay, Yana, great. You have plenty of time, so no worries. If you guys are experiencing a delay and like I respond to a question that you might have like 5 minutes after you ask it, it's likely because you're not in live. So when you're watching the YouTube videos, to respond in like real time and so that we're on the same things that you're looking at, can you guys make sure that in the bottom left hand, so if you scroll over the video, you should see where it says live. If you click that button, or if you don't have the ability to click it, if it has a little red dot that says live, then you're actually live. If not, click that button and it'll take you to the live portion of the class. Okay, so just make sure that you guys are aware of that. If you ever feel like you're lagging behind for whatever reason, and then again, guys, please make sure that you click subscribe to the channel so that you can chat, so you have the ability to chat. And then let us know who's all here. Again, it's because it's the first class. We will spend the first probably 15 minutes, as we always do, just getting everybody ready to go. But as you guys are ready to go, make sure that you are. Hi, Anna. Welcome, Anna. I think it is. Okay, welcome, guys. As you guys again get in, please make sure that you have the ability to chat by just saying hello, and then make sure that you have the A11 test printed out. Just the English section. If that's all you want to print for today, that's fine. We will use the entire test over the course of the class, but if it's just the English today, that's totally fine. And then if you don't have your ACT tutorial yet, the big red ACT, it says Star Tutors. It looks like it's the red version of a book that looks like this. This is the SAT. I'll be using the digital copy. You guys will see that come up on my screen. But if you don't have that, if it hasn't been shipped to you, if you haven't been able to pick that up, then just make sure that you have those digital English files open, and that you're ready to go. So Yana, Anna, can you guys give me a thumbs up if you have both of those, or either you're printing the documents or you have the documents and the book in front of you. Can you guys just give me a thumbs up if you're either in the process of doing that or you've already done it? That would be great. Just want to make sure that, that everybody is. Oh, and all good on your end? Can you think of anything else that we need to include here? All good on your end? Thanks, Yana. Well, great. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, Anna, you should be able to find it in the files. So if you guys are looking for A11, you should be able to find it in the files. It's the same one we were working with the bonus class. So look for the files tab on the right, on the side of the classroom group. There, you can download. Guys, again, as you log in here, as you guys are following along, please make sure that you are that you're just giving us a thumbs up so that we know who's here. Please give me a thumbs up so we know who's here. And then we will get going. And then guys, if you are having trouble finding the chat, you may have to either send, so if you're having trouble seeing the chat, you can yeah guys, if you're having trouble finding the chat, you guys can always email us just to let us know that you're here and paying it and around. We want to make sure that you guys have access to the chat. If you subscribed and then you refresh the page, you should also have access to the chat. So just refresh the page if you are having any trouble with that. I just want to make sure, we always take the first 15 minutes or so to make sure that everybody's ready to go and that you guys have everything printed out. Please make sure that you have the A11 test ready to go for the next class as well. So if you have it printed, that's great. And just make sure that you bring that as well as the tutorial. Anna, were you able to find that? Did you see that in the Files tab? Did you see that in the Files tab on the left-hand side? Let's see, who else was taking the practice exam this weekend? Okay, guys, so let's get started here. So a couple things. Okay, Anna, just have the test. If you don't have a printer, just have the test open for me. Okay, just a digital copy. So just have a digital copy open and just pull it up. But if you found the PDF, that's okay. Just for the most part, we probably want you guys to print these out. But for today, it's okay. If it ever gets to a point where you guys can't print out all of the tests, that's okay. But ideally, just because you'll be writing on paper, that's how we'd want you to take it anyway. And so yeah, just kind of keep that in mind as we keep moving through this. But in any case, guys, let's start with an introduction here. So first of all, I hope you guys are all doing well as school has ended. Owen, as I said, is our teaching assistant. So I think you guys are going to find him to be a very, very valuable, potentially one of the most valuable resources you'll have for the ACT. Owen was a student. It was a student in the programs 3 years ago, I think 4 years ago maybe, and has since worked wonders for Star Tutors in terms of YouTube. So Owen is the only student as well that we've ever had be able to do a practice. So for those that have seen the YouTube channel before, we take these full-length practice real-time exams where we'll sit down and take a full ACT test section. So that'll be part of the class, and you guys will see that. Owen to date is still the only student we've ever had that's been able to effectively talk out an entire test while maintaining a very, very high level and score. Which is very difficult to do, I'll say, and especially if you're a student and this isn't your livelihood or your job like it is for me. And so, again, I think that when you see Owen's video, you'll see it during the course of the class. You'll see that he's certainly very capable of answering any of your questions, perhaps even better than I am for this ACT stuff. So, yeah, welcome, Owen. I think if you guys have any questions for him, he's very resourceful from not only the ACT standpoint, but from a college standpoint as well. So please, please, please make sure that you guys are not only paying attention, but that you guys are participating as much as possible. And that doesn't just have to be during class. The students that we've had ask the most questions, the ones that have been emailing us the most, all that kind of stuff are always, without a doubt, the ones that do the best. And so it doesn't have to be constant. You don't have to ask questions just to ask questions. But I think one of the things that Owen would say, and he's probably been one of the best that's ever come through our programs, Owen was extremely good about figuring out what he didn't know how to do and then asking the question, and then the next time around he would know how to do it. And then he had mastered that aspect of the exam. So again, I hope that you guys find him to be a great resource. I'll be here, of course, for the same stuff and answering any questions you have. I think Owen creates a little bit more of a student perspective and really has probably a better feeling as much as I'd like to admit that high school wasn't that long ago. It's creeping further and further into the past, and it's in much shorter rear view mirror for Owen. So you guys certainly should ask him questions, and again, he'll be a great resource for you guys. So Owen, did I leave anything out? Owen also he also edits all of our videos too. So Owen's been very involved with us for a long time, and so not only can he answer any questions that you guys have that relate to the actual ACT and test forms, he'll also be able to help you guys out with any technological problems, technical issues. He's very savvy with that kind of stuff as well. So very familiar with the system. You guys are lucky to have him. He's one of our best teaching assistants and tutors, and yeah, I'm looking forward to having him in the class this year. On top of that, guys, can everybody give me a thumbs up again? If you guys haven't given me a thumbs up or don't know if you're in the chat yet, can you please do that? Anna, Yana, that's great. Thank you guys for already participating. A couple things. So you guys are going to be able to get a chance to see all of this stuff in real time. We've worked out a lot of the virtual classroom. Yeah, there's the you're welcome, Owen. Yeah, so we've worked out a lot of the virtual classroom issues, and kind of going back to what I was just talking about with Owen. He and I have been trying to figure out ways to keep you guys as engaged as possible through these virtual classes. And so we started this project about 2.5 years ago, and it's drastically improved from where we started. And so now you guys will see like those English PDFs that I posted in the Facebook group. You guys will see that right in the back of my screen as we work through this stuff. We'll have the ability to time so I'll explain all this as we go, but we'll be able to time you guys on certain sections, and you guys will see that pop up here in just a second. So again, I think we've worked this out to a way that hopefully you don't see too many differences from being in class. And I think Owen can probably attest to this, that a lot of the students that we've seen come through these programs are very. You're almost more capable when you are sitting in front of your computer, because there's not a lot of distractions. I know that it's very easy to be watching Netflix or whatever while you're sitting at your computer. I hope you guys aren't doing that. Most of you don't. So it's easy to be distracted a little bit, but not as much as we found as when you're sitting in class and you're looking around the room and there's other students in the class. It seems like this is a pretty good way to stay focused. So in any case, like I said, we'll be able to time you guys as we go. We'll talk more about that. You guys will see that on the screen. And again, I think that it creates somewhat of an environment. So at the very least, you'll be able to see everything that I'm doing and being able to follow along. Is that cool? So guys, can you give me a thumbs up to make sure you're ready to go? We're going to jump in and we're going to do a little warm up here with that A11 exam. So can everybody just give me a thumbs up and confirm that you guys have the A11 test? Okay, A11, and specifically, can you guys have the A11 English passage number 1? Now I'm going to sneeze. This is that guy. Oh, that's the worst feeling. When you're about ready to sneeze and you just can't. Oh. Okay, guys, so can everybody just confirm with a thumbs up that you guys, that you guys have the A11 test open and in front of you? And specifically, I'd like you guys to be open to that first English passage. We're just going to do a warm-up here, and we're going to give you guys a sense as to what you should be looking for on English. Okay? And then we're going to jump into some more English. For the first 3 classes, we'll focus exclusively on the English test, on the English section. And, yeah, and from there we will jump into math, and then into reading, and then to science. And this class is designed to lead directly into the September test. So over the course of the next 10 to 12 weeks, we'll have plenty of proctored practice tests. We'll have plenty of instruction, all that kind of stuff. So again, guys, Anna, Yana, can you guys, everybody that's online right now who's watching, if you guys aren't seeing the chat for whatever reason too, can you just give me a thumbs up on the bottom of the video? No, I'm not a YouTube influencer, but it would be nice to know that you guys are following along. And so just a quick thumbs up would be great, guys, just so I know that you guys are ready to go for this little warm up here. Okay, again, we're on the thanks, Yana, that's great. So we're on the A11 test. This is passage number 1. A11 passage 1, and this is just a warm-up. Okay, so with the English test, for those that had a chance to take the practice exam with us or have taken a practice ACT exam before, when you guys are warming up, when you guys are thinking about this test, I can't stress how important it is to be doing practice problems before you go to the actual test. And we'll talk about we have our StarU tutoring app, which again we'll discuss. Basically, we put all of your tutorial into an app. and so that you guys will be able to do these practice problems. We'll talk about that after you guys warm up here. But the thing you want to think about with English is that everybody, and I truly mean this, Owen can probably attest to this as well, the English section is the one section through all of this that everyone should be able to score 30 plus. Okay, everyone should be able to score a 30 plus on this section. Now, for some of you, particularly for big readers, like Owen and I are both big readers, and so I think that has definitely helped us on a test like this. It doesn't mean you have to be a great reader for like I use the book Frankenstein as an example. I truly believe that Frankenstein was the most boring book I've ever read in my entire life, and I read it as like a sophomore or junior in high school. It was terrible, and I would never read that to try to get myself to be better at the ACT English or ACT reading sections by no stretch of the imagination. But and to the point that I was just making about Owen and I, we both like to read, but I would almost guarantee that the vast majority of the things that we read are not the same things. The reason I bring all this up, guys, is because this ACT English section, the reason I think that you can all get a 30 plus on this test, and we've seen enough students do it who have put in the work, is because this is largely based on sixth grade grammar, if you guys can believe that. And we'll talk more about that today and through the first couple classes, but it's sixth grade grammar. And so the point that I was making about if you like to read a lot, when you guys read an essay or an article, and again, it doesn't matter what that is, if it's sports, if it's the news, if it's long novels, if it's nonfiction. I love biographies as an example. But no matter what, if you're reading, the stuff that you're reading is edited and published work. Okay, it's edited and it's published. And what that means is that all of the grammar rules that you guys see in those edited and published works are going to apply, and 95% of that, they miss things here and there, but like when you hear an editor of a newspaper, that their job is to actually edit the newspaper. I mean, at its core, that's what they're supposed to be doing. And so when you read a book or you read an article, the 95% of that has correct grammar. So when you're reading more, it helps you be a better reader for the actual reading section of the test, which is section number 3. But on top of that, it helps you just to identify better grammar and how you're supposed to, how to read. And so when you get to a lot of these questions, and for those that see Owen's video, and I think Owen would attest to this, you're almost listening in some ways. When you get to be a great reader, you don't even need to learn these grammar rules. You almost just know them off the top of your head. Having said that, if you don't love to read, you can still memorize these grammar rules because things like, I always bring this up, I'm a terrible singer, but you know that conjunction, junction, what's your function? Am I too old for that? Also, again, good thing I'm an ACT teacher and not a singer, professional singer. Okay, but who remembers that? Am I too old to remember that from Schoolhouse Rocks? Owen, I think, Owen, am I too old for that? I think you may have seen it, but these guys are now a couple years younger than you, so am I too old? The reason I bring that up is because that whole conjunction, junction, what's your function, that talks about some of the hardest concepts with punctuation that you would see on the ACT English test. And so when I bring that up, and when we see that today and during next class and the class after that, but what I hope you guys come away with is like, man, this really is just not very hard. I can do this. I can put in the time. I can put in the effort. And even if I don't love to read, I can get better at this section of the exam. Does that make sense? Can everybody give me a thumbs up, guys, if that makes sense? Thumbs up, guys, if that makes sense. Okay, yeah, so you guys just saw Owen. Owen might have been the last class before they... If you guys ever want to go watch Schoolhouse Rocks, that's some premium content there. Okay, but Owen was subjected to it. I don't know if you guys were, but in any case, I promise you the point of that whole spiel was that those were talking about 6th grade grammar rules, those old videos, and they were horrible quality. But that is what is being covered on the ACT English section. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, and again, I'm getting into some warm-up problems. If you guys have the A11 test open, or if you have it pulled up on a PDF on your computer, I'd like everybody to try and work through passage number 1. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 9 minutes. This is just a warm-up. It's obviously the first day of class, so don't be too frazzled, right? Passage 1 starts, it looks like this. It starts with From Salad to Symphony. Okay, passage 1. And you guys are going to have 11 No, you know what? This is just a warm-up. So we're going to have 9 minutes. And what I want you to be paying attention to, okay, what I really want you to be paying attention to is what's underlined. Okay, so if you see a comma that's underlined, you want to think, what are my comma rules? If you don't know those comma rules now, that's okay. Okay, or if you see a verb that's underlined, right? The best part, the other great part about this English test is that they point you where you need to be looking. They show you what you need to be editing all the way through the exam. Okay, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, guys, so if everybody's pretty clear on that, if everybody feels that that's pretty straightforward, can you guys, I'm going to pull up this timer here. You guys are going to get 9 minutes, and you'll see the timer up here. That 45 is not correct. Okay, so you guys will get 9 minutes, and yeah, and we'll go through it at the end and talk a little bit about it, but you guys have 9 minutes, and your time starts now. Good luck, guys. A11, you guys are good to go. A11 Passage 1. For anybody that's watches the recording after this, again, you're on A11 Passage 1, and you guys can watch the video. The timer will still be there. So 9 minutes, and good luck, guys. Okay, you guys are doing great. You have about a minute left. Okay, don't rush through it. Stay focused. You guys are doing great. Got a minute left. Just over a minute. Okay, guys, about 5 seconds. Stay focused. And time. All right, guys. So that's it. So that was the first practice passage. I know that a lot of you guys took the practice test with us last Saturday. So, or if you've taken a practice test before this, that's great. Overall, how do you guys feel? And again, if you're going to watch the video coming back around, like if you're going to watch it on the recording, that's not a problem. But just make sure that you're aware that you can still chat. And you guys can still post in the comments section if you have any questions or concerns. But overall, guys, how'd you feel? How'd the test go? Were you guys, did you feel overwhelmed? Did you feel underwhelmed? How'd that feel in terms of just that first passage? Okay, please make sure that you comment below. But one of the things I want to point out, guys, is I kind of gave it away here that the first one that there might be some verbs involved. So this first question says they're instruments of choice, right? They're instruments of choice. And we see, right, is considered. So this is just a verb or a verb phrase, right? Verb/verb phrase. And so right away, as we go through this class, you guys are going to find out that this is only one of two things. It's either verb tense, okay? And again, this is verb tense or this is subject-verb agreement. And what I want you guys to remember is that, this is so much about hard work, because if you guys recognize their instruments, right, their instruments are rather unusual, right? And the only answer choice, because their instruments is plural, right? We want to use a plural verb, which identifies this as subject-verb agreement. Now, don't tell this to your younger siblings, because it is true. But I would guess that a lot of your younger siblings who might be in 5th, 6th, 7th grade right now are probably better at grammar than most 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And that's just because we focused on this so long ago that we've forgotten a lot of it. And again, there's a difference between really being honed in and focused on comma rules and being able to write a good essay. A lot of great writers actually are horrible at punctuation, are horrible grammatically. And while that can be argued for all of time on whether or not that's a good thing, the fact is that the ACT is going to test you on grammar, and so that 6th, 7th graders will probably have a better, stronger understanding of a lot of these rules simply because that's what they're going through right now. Yana, Anna, any questions on any of that? Did you guys have were you overwhelmed at all? Did you feel overwhelmed? Any thoughts or concerns? Anything along those lines? How did you guys feel overall? I just want you to remember that paying attention to what's underlined, we're going to get better at this, right? Today we're going to focus pretty heavily on punctuation. Okay, we're going to focus pretty heavily on punctuation. And look, guys, right away we know that it must be punctuation because we have a comma underlined, right? We see a comma here. So as you guys go through this, it's just really important that you identify these rules. And again, when you get to a point, Owen I think can attest to this. Okay, Owen can attest to this that if you memorize these rules, you just know everything. You just get better. And so the thing that we have to be focused on, and why we start off with the English section, is if you get a 36 on English, right? Let's say you're a horrible math student. I don't know if any of you are, but let's say math is not your favorite subject. The English section, and for those that had joined the bonus classes, the English test is worth the exact same amount of points as the math test. So they're individually graded. Okay, so if you were a terrible math student, but you decided to put in the work and all the effort, and you got a 36 and a 22, right, between those first two sections, that would still give you a 29 overall. You'd have a 29 on this exam with a 22 on the math section. So the point that I want to make is that ACT test takers have a massive advantage over the SAT test takers for one real reason, and that's because you start off with the easiest section. If ACT test takers are taking this seriously and are really trying to improve their grammar rules, and you guys are going to see a lot of these grammar rules in class, and it's going to start today. If you guys do that, a 30 plus, maybe not a 36, because that's out of 36, right? 36 out of 36. A 36 is very reasonable. Does that all make sense? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you guys feel comfortable with that? Everybody give me a thumbs up. Guys, by the way, any questions that you might have? So we talked a lot about the scoring in those bonus classes. So any questions you might have about like why we're jumping into this so quickly, just make sure that you watch those bonus classes because it really helps. Those bonus classes are short. They're only like 30 minutes to 45 minutes long. Those are posted in the Facebook group below the most recent post. So it's all in chronological order, so just scroll to the bottom. But the reason I bring this up is because we talk a lot about the scoring system and how you have a total of a 36 score, but it's based on the average of all four sections. So they add up the average, right, of the English, of the math. The reading is the third section, and the science is the fourth section. So let's say you get a 29 here and a 25 here. These are all averaged together. So again, if you have a really strong score like a 36, even if you don't perform at the same exceptional level as the 36, guys, this score breakdown amazingly is still a 28 on the exam. A 28 is in the top. That's in the top 12% or so of all students that take this. So I just can't stress to you how important it is to focus on English and focus on it first because it is really easy. It's never going to overwhelm you. It may be the most boring thing that you ever see, but generally when something's boring but not overwhelming, right, you can get through it. It might not be your favorite thing in the world to do, but if you know that it's really important for school or for college or whatever, it's pretty easy to kind of work through that at a reasonable pace. And if you guys are sophomores to be juniors right now, you have a year, really, like 9 months to a year before you really before you definitely have to take this exam. We encourage you guys to take it earlier than that, of course, but you really have 9 months to a year in order to take that. Okay, so I just want you guys to be familiar with that. And then again, if you haven't watched those bonus lessons, please do. Because the class itself is really more designed to try to lead you guys through all of these different sections. The bonus lessons that we started and that you guys all have the recordings available to is explaining a lot of that scale and how the scoring works and just trying to get you guys familiar with how to kind of master the test taking. And then throughout the program, we'll be doing those same strategies, but they're summarized pretty nicely in those bonus lessons that are posted. Okay, guys, so that's enough of that. That's enough of that for right now. What I'd like everybody to do now, okay, A11 English, and we're going to post the answers after class. So, Owen, as the first piece of homework, we're going to do passage number 2 in class towards the end after we do some grammar work now. Owen, can you post the first part of the homework is to complete passages 3, 4, and 5 in the ACT English test. 3, 4, and 5 in ACT English. And then, Owen, can you also post the link to this ACT English video, guys? So, again, like I mentioned before, Owen and I have been working, ACT English, A11. Don't watch this now, guys, please. I know that it might be tempting. But, Owen, if you could post that link that I just posted in the chat. Owen and I have been taking these full-length practice tests. So after you guys are done taking this, you're going to actually get, the part of the homework is going to be to complete the last 3 passages here. And then to sit with your test in front of you to sit there and watch me or Owen, or we have one other tutor that does this, take the entire exam in real time so that you guys can hopefully kind of learn and understand what's going on with these strategies and the grammar rules and all of that kind of stuff. Yep, 3, 4, and 5, Owen, and A11 on the A11 test. And then right below that is after they've taken those, I want them to watch the video with their test in front of them and make sure that they're following along. And that will also be a good way to grade the test. You guys will see the scoring and the grading happens at the end of the video. So please, though, watch the entire video as you go through. That's going to be an essential part of homework throughout this entire class. Cool, thanks, Owen, great. Okay, guys, so let's jump out of this for a second and let's go back into those English PDFs. So what I'd like everybody to do is, if you have the digital copy of the ACT tutorial, if you have the digital copy, can everybody please go to page, if you have the digital copy, can you go to page 30? And if you have the book copy, so if you have the book, can everybody go to page, let me delete all this stuff. Can everybody go to page 27? So 27 if you have the hard copy of the book, and 30, either way, you're going to see the same stuff. And then give me a thumbs up when you guys are ready to go. So thumbs up when you guys are ready to go. We're going to start with punctuation today, which is probably the most important grammar section in the entire book. It's probably it's one of the most important chapters. If you look at that 700-page tutorial that you have in front of you, okay, it's probably one of, if not the most important chapters in the entire tutorial, if you can believe it, is what we're going to start with on day number 1. And your ability to master this section, and truly, when I'm saying that conjunction, understanding a conjunction is a 6th grade task. It really is. That's when they introduced this. That's when they introduced that Schoolhouse Rocks video, all that kind of stuff. We tend to forget it, and this is, again, not going to be the first thing that you want to wake up to every day, right? This isn't, I guarantee you guys don't sit there today and are like, oh my God, I can't wait to get to ACT English grammar today, right? Nobody does that realistically, or I don't think many of 16-year-olds do that anymore, or ever. Okay, so it's your ability then to sit there and be really disciplined and make sure that you're focused all the way through so that you can see what's underlined, and then you recall these grammar rules that we're going to talk about today, and there's no reason that you can't be doing these on your own. And as we get through this punctuation section, I'm going to show you how you can be doing all this stuff on your own. Okay? So punctuation is, again, the single most important grammar lesson that we'll go through, that we'll cover. So it's absolutely essential that you guys are following along with this. Okay? The reason it's the most essential, and again, potentially the most essential chapter in the entire tutorial, is that punctuation makes up 10 of the 75 English questions. So can everybody write that down? You guys can absolutely mark up your books. Okay? You can mark up your tutorials as much as you want. They're yours. But that makes up 10 out of 75. Guys, that's more than 10% of the English test. And the English test is weighted, even though English is way easier than the math section on the ACT, it's still weighted the same. So that's why I say this is such an important section, is that if you master this section, and these, by the way, are oftentimes considered level 2, okay, level 2 and level 3 problems out of 3, solely because most students decide that they don't want to go back and memorize these rules, which is just crazy if you truly want a great score. Okay? So let's talk about some of this stuff. Okay, so punctuation is very straightforward. Can everybody write down the 5 pieces of punctuation that you guys will need to know for this test, okay? The first one is the comma. Okay, I think everybody's familiar with the comma. Okay, you'll also need to know what a semicolon does. Semicolon. Like this, right? You guys will need to know what a colon is. Like that. You guys will need to know what a dash looks like. We call those M dashes or long dashes. They look like this, and sometimes there's 2 of them in a sentence. And then you guys also need to know what a period looks like. That's it. Occasionally parentheses, but we'll talk about that. Parentheses are very similar to dashes up here. And then a period is very common. I hope everybody knows how to write a full sentence, right? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if those all make sense? If you guys are following along, if those make sense. That's it. I think it's very fair to say that you guys are capable of getting those things right. I hope so, right? Of memorizing those pieces of punctuation. So if you have those pieces of punctuation down, then you just need to know how they interact with these 3 parts of a clause, or rather these 3 parts of a sentence, which are clauses, independent and dependent, and one other thing called a phrase, and that's it. If you guys can believe it, these 5 pieces of punctuation, punctuation. Okay, if you guys can believe it, these 5 punctuation and these 3 sentences are all you need to know to memorize one of the most important chapters on the ACT English test. Okay, so let's start with first of all, what these clauses are and just try to make sense of those. And then we'll talk about how they relate to the different forms of punctuation that you'll need to know. Okay, and then again, it's your job then to go back and memorize this. Okay, so with punctuation, you guys have what we call an independent clause. Independent clause. And please, guys, be taking notes on this. An independent clause is just a full sentence. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, it's just a fancy way to say a full sentence. So you could say something like, Chase loves to go to McDonald's. Which is a true statement. Chase loves to go to McDonald's. Right? If you read that by itself, and that's a trick. You need to be able to read this by yourself. If you read that by yourself and you read it out loud and it sounds like a full sentence, then that's great. That's an independent clause. Okay, it seems so ridiculous, again, for us to be talking about it. Okay, well, what does that have to do with the ACT? Well, if you can recognize this and you see a piece of punctuation underlined, and you know those 5 pieces of punctuation that we just mentioned, and you know these 3 different types of parts of a sentence, all you need to do is be able to figure out how an independent clause relates with a dependent clause, or how how a phrase relates to an independent clause, and what pieces of punctuation go with that. There's only like 15 to 20 combinations, and realistically, guys, if you really wanted to put in the time and the effort, and maybe you can speak to this, this is the one section that you can't, it's hard to sound out, that you really do need to speak to the rules. And even as good of a reader as Owen is, this is probably a section that he had to go back and really memorize and work hard to nail down, because you don't speak punctuation. You really just have to go through these and memorize these. But again, 20 combinations to have a significant part of the ACT English section mastered seems like a really good trade-off, considering what the ACT now means for college and scholarships and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so independent clause, right, is just a full sentence. Okay, the other type of clause we have is what we call a dependent clause. And as you guys might have guessed by what a dependent clause sounds like. Okay, yeah. So you guys make sure that you're reading the comments. That's a great one from Owen. Okay, memorize the rules. It's not a lot when you break it down. That couldn't be more true. So when you guys have a dependent clause, it relates, right? Relates to the independent clause. Relates to independent. And is not a full sentence. Relates to independent and not, right? Big bold letters, not full sentence. And for example, you might see something like after eating McDonald's, right? After eating McDonald's, okay, can that be by itself? No. And then you'd have a comma here, and I'll talk about why in just a second. After eating McDonald's, Chase does not feel very good. Okay? True statement as well. I love eating McDonald's, never feel good after it. Okay, so after eating McDonald's, if I just read this part of the sentence by itself, right? If I just read after eating McDonald's, can we all agree that cannot stand on its own, right? We can agree on that, and that's why it's called a dependent clause. A dependent clause. Okay, and then the rule, guys, is that if you have a dependent clause, and so this is just the rule and how it relates, if you have a dependent clause that leads into an independent clause, like we just had, then you do need the comma. Okay, so after eating McDonald's, comma, Chase does not feel very good. You do need the comma. However, if you switch that sentence around, and this is a ridiculous part about the English language, and you say Chase does not feel very good, very good, after eating McDonald's, right? If you see it like that, you do not need a comma. Okay, so again, what the ACT is testing you on is, do you really, Chase not feel very good, right? They might have a comma here, and you do not need this. And in both examples, can everybody give me a thumbs up if it makes sense that in both of these examples, right, the part that would be underlined would be the part containing the comma, And then in the answer choices, they would have one answer choice that doesn't have a comma, one answer choice that does have a comma. And all you need to be able to do is say, okay, which one of these comes first? If it's an independent clause, if the first part of the sentence can stand on its own, right? Everything before the comma that they give you in the answer choices, if that can stand on its own, and then that leads into a dependent clause like this, right? If that's the case, then you do not need this comma. And again, the answer choices will give you examples where you do have a comma, where you don't have a comma, and that's it. Guys, that right there is a major part of the ACT English test, if you guys can believe it, what we just went through. Right? It's independent clauses and dependent clauses and how they relate, and those are the only two circumstances that they relate. Because you can't have two dependent clauses in a sentence because that wouldn't make sense. Right? You wouldn't be able to stand those on by themselves because they're not full sentences by definition. Does that all make sense, guys? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if those two ideas make sense? And again, guys, if you just take diligent notes like this, what I was talking about, one of Owen's greatest strengths, and this isn't just for his English testing when he was doing this, but even when he explains it to other students now, after going through this and learning more, one of his greatest strengths is he's constantly wanting to learn, and he does. And Owen, I think, can attest to this, but I've rarely seen him make the same mistake. Right? Once you get it down, you should have it down, and that's the idea behind this. So if you guys have all of this stuff listed out, you can just continue to get better at it. Maybe you identified a little bit faster next time, but it's important that you really knock this stuff out. So again, I encourage you to write everything that I just wrote, and that will allow you to score really well. Okay, Owen, I think Owen was an exceptional English test taker back in the day, and he still had to write this stuff out, and he got a perfect score on his English test. Right, not to call you out there, Owen, but Owen got a perfect score on his English test, and there were still things that he needed to learn. And he just decided to learn them, and then he got those 4 questions that he was missing beforehand. He got those 4 or 5 questions right, and he improved his score. And so that's what you guys have to be thinking about. Okay, and then the final thing that we need to mention here is just very simple. It's what we call a phrase. Okay, it's just what we call a phrase. And a phrase is something like chase, right? Chase, and then in the middle of the sentence, typically, it says chase after teaching this ACT class will be going to, you guessed it, McDonald's. Okay, and that's what we call a phrase. Okay, and so when this part is in the middle of the sentence, right, this is going to be a phrase here. This is what we call a non-essential piece of information. It's not essential. I don't need to include after taking this ACT class. That is non-essential. So what a phrase does is it introduces details that are not essential. And please write that out. And so anytime we see a phrase on this exam, all you need to be thinking is, if I take that phrase out, does the sentence just generally make sense? And the best part about this is the ACT is not trying to trick you here. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, wait, no, I thought that was essential and you didn't, so you got that one wrong. And I know this means a lot for college, but that stinks. You got it wrong. Sorry. That would not be a standardized test. That's not a very objective. So all you need to do is anytime you see 2 commas in a sentence like this and that part of the sentence is underlined, just remove that part of the sentence and see if it still makes sense. If it does make sense, when you pull that out, then it is a phrase, right? It is a phrase, meaning it does need commas. Details that are not essential, right? You pull it out, the sentence still makes sense. You need commas around that part of the sentence. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? Anna, Yana, anybody else watching, guys? Can you just give me a thumbs up to confirm that all makes sense, that you guys understand that? Very, very, very important. Great, guys. Thanks, Yana. That's great. Okay, so if you guys can believe it, that and that alone takes care of commas, and commas are about 50% of the grammar that we use in life. Okay, so 50%. That's it. That's all you need for commas. Okay, can you guys just tell me good to go? This is how all of these relate regarding commas. Sorry, excuse me. These are how all of these relate regarding commas. Can everybody just give me a good to go if this is all, if you guys just say good to go in the chat, if this is all making sense. Good to go if this is all making sense. Okay, I know I gave you guys a thumbs up, but just good to go that you don't have any, really not that it's making sense, but just to confirm that you guys don't have any questions. Okay, thanks, Yana, that's great. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to talk about here today, and if you guys can believe it, or rather the last thing that, oh wait, yeah, actually before I do that, give me I have one more example for you. Okay, so in terms of what we just discussed with this essential and non-essential information, so occasionally the ACT loves to do practice, loves to give you questions, and these are very high level, very, very high level questions that give you what looks to be one of those phrases, right? That where you have comma, and there's a phrase. And a lot of students, this is what we're going to talk about here. This is a level 3 question every time. A lot of students don't choose to remove that. They forget that rule, and they're just worried about timing and they forget. But watch this, guys. It says astronomy teacher Mr. Fermi looks forward to reading Greg's essay. So again, on the real test, they would have this part underlined, right? Okay, and all we need to do is if we remove Mr. Fermi, because that's what's underlined, right? That's supposed to be non-essential, and reread that to ourselves. It says, astronomy teacher looks forward to reading Greg's essay. Can everybody see that that doesn't work? If we take that out, that sentence no longer makes sense. No longer makes sense. Right? Does everybody see that? Meaning that that is essential. If the sentence doesn't make sense without Mr. Fermi, that's essential, so no commas, right? No, if it's essential, it means no commas. Commas basically like put something aside to say that you don't need it, like the dependent clause or the phrase that it's non-essential. Essential items like Mr. Fermi in this case, you need that in there for the sentence to make sense. So the correct answer, while most students want to select it with commas just because that's how we think about this typically, you don't need commas here. It should just read, as astronomy teacher Mr. Fermi looks forward to reading Greg's essay. The reason behind this is because this is an adjective, and that goes into it really in depth about reading, but the reason that we explain it the way that we do is I hope you guys don't look at that as an adjective. You don't need to. All you need to do is just remember the rule that if you see commas around something in a sentence, just take that part of the sentence out, and if it does make sense without that, then you need the commas. That's non-essential. If it does not make sense, right? If it doesn't make sense, then it's essential and you do not need commas, as is the case here with Mr. Fermi. Okay, so that's a great example of a question that's very high level. Okay, this would again be a level 3 question. This would be level 3 out of 3. Okay, and it's very, very, very easy if you just sit there and you memorize and you just convince yourself and discipline yourself to not get caught up in moving too quickly or not actually pulling that part out of the sentence and seeing if it still makes sense. Okay, so that's kind of the last item with regards to commas. Okay, everybody good to go there, guys? Everybody good to go? Any questions overall before we move on to some of these pieces of punctuation that might be a little bit more involved and in-depth? Okay? So the next pieces of punctuation that I want you guys to look at, and this should be on page 35 of the digital copy. If you're using the book, it's on like page 32 or 33. Okay, it should say, it says at the top, semicolons. Okay, so we're looking at semicolons. And a semicolon is the easiest. This is, for the record, these are always labeled as level 3 questions. Semicolons are always level 3, again, out of level 3. I can't believe it, but they are, and it's only because most students don't tend to go back and look at this. If you see a semicolon, these are the easiest questions on the exam because a semicolon has such a defined rule. If you see a semicolon, the only time you can use a semicolon on the ACT is if you have an independent clause followed by an independent clause. So effectively, this is the exact same thing, and it's true, as a period on the ACT. This is just a period. So this second part won't be a capital letter. Okay, you won't have a capital letter, but that's the only difference. You'll have a full sentence, right? Just like you would with a period. You can have a period here, or you can have a semicolon here. Okay, and then you'll have another full sentence. Either one of those works. And that's it, guys. That is, if you can believe it, this is one of the hardest questions or the ACT says it's the hardest question. It is not, especially if you just stick to this rule, right? So you could say something like, as an example, Chase likes to go to McDonald's, right? And then in this case, we could say, whoops. Okay, guys, in this case, we could say, let's erase this just so I have some room. Okay, Chase likes to go to McDonald's. We could have a period here, right? He likes Big Macs. Okay. We could have a period there, or you could have a semicolon here, and it would just start off with he with a capital, he likes Big Mac. Does that make sense, guys? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? That a semicolon and a period on the ACT are exactly the same thing. And so if you remember that, and then you see a semicolon on the ACT, even if the answer is wrong, it's still the easiest question to identify. Because let's say you get answer choice A, right? Answer choice A is a semicolon, right? It's a phrase, right? And you'd have something like this part of the sentence would be underlined, and you have to determine. If you read that semicolon, if there's not a full sentence on both sides of that semicolon, like it would be, like as if it was a period, then that answer choice is wrong. And a lot of times, if you can eliminate the semicolon answer choice, if it's wrong, it really opens up and it makes it very clear what the right answer is. And if it's right, if you do have two full sentences on both sides of the semicolon, then it's still super easy. Then you don't have to think about it at all. It's just like there's two full sentences, right? It's just like a period. That works. That's the right answer. That took 2 seconds, despite despite semicolons being judged as hard questions supposed to be hard questions on this exam. And that's it, guys. That's it for semicolons. Okay? Okay? So the next thing that we need to talk about is a colon. Okay? A colon. And here's what a colon does. A colon always has one full sentence. Okay? It always has one full sentence on the left side of the colon. So full sentence. And then it has what we call an elaboration on the right side. So after the colon is what we call an elaboration. And most people think of that as a list. That isn't a list is typical. That's typically what we see. But it doesn't have to be a list. It could be another full sentence. You can technically have a full sentence that elaborates on what was just said. Okay, full sentence. You could have just one word, right? One word. You could have a phrase. You can have a lot of things that are after the colon. So if you know that you can have a lot of things after the colon, what they're really testing you on here is what you can have before the colon, and all it is a full sentence. So if you don't have a full sentence on the left side of the colon, then it doesn't matter if this elaboration happens on the right side or not, because you don't have a full sentence that's a requirement of a colon. Okay, so you have to be a full sentence. So it's something like Chase likes a number of items at McDonald's. Okay. Chase likes a number of items at McDonald's. Is that a full sentence? Yes. Colon. You could end the sentence right there with a period if you wanted to, but I'm going to elaborate. Chase likes a number of items at McDonald's. He likes, let's just say, colon, Big Mac, right, fries, whatever, sandwiches, whatever. You guys get the picture. That if you have a full sentence over here, then then it doesn't really matter. Then you can have a colon and whatever the elaboration is, that's not really what they're testing you on. They're just seeing if you know that there has to be a full sentence on the left side of a colon. So just block effectively what you're trying to do here, right? Effectively what you're trying to do when you see a colon as an answer choice is you're just trying to block all this stuff out, right? Just block that out, and do I have a full sentence? Yes, then that equals a colon. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if a semicolon and a colon make sense? Guys, those are two very, very easy pieces of punctuation, but everyone tends to miss them solely because we don't put in the time to really remember what we're supposed to do when we see those on the real test. But again, the most straightforward piece of punctuation that you can get. Okay, and realistically, guys, this last thing that we're going to talk about, which is called a phrase, this is really straightforward as well. It's very similar to commas. Okay, so phrases actually have two distinct rules, but they're very straightforward. A phrase can serve two purposes. Okay, a dash can serve two purposes. You can have a dash. You can have a start of an independent clause. Okay, so you could start an independent clause. Start independent clause. Okay, and just like with the comma, you can have a dash and then a phrase. Or, and this is what makes it's slightly different, or you can have another full sentence actually inside of here, right? Full sentence. And then another dash, and then you finish the first independent clause. All right, oops. End, let's say end, first independent clause. Okay, so that's one way you can use a dash. Does that all make sense? Basically what dashes are used for, right? These could be comma, comma, but a comma it can only have a phrase. You can't have a full sentence in between two commas. Okay, but in that case, it's just used to make it stand out a little bit more than what you typically see from a dash, or what you typically see from a comma. And one really easy way to determine these two questions is if you see a dash or a comma underlined, go back earlier in the sentence and see, or later in the sentence, and see if you see the other dash and comma that are not underlined. Because if you see one of these later in the sentence, what that means is that the one earlier in the sentence should be one or the other. And all you need to remember is that if this is a comma, this has to be a comma, right? And if this is a dash, this has to be a dash. So just look earlier or later in the sentence to see, and this is if you see that on the test and the answer choices, just look earlier or later to see if it makes sense to close that phrase or that sentence out. Okay, is good to go? Can you guys just let me know that you're good to go there? And that's it, guys. That is truly it. So here's what I want everybody to write down as a quick summary for this punctuation section. The parts of the sentence that you need to know, parts of the sentence. For the ACT English, and again, this is, like I said, this is probably the most important chapter, and you can knock it out of the park in 5 days if you really sit down and memorize it. Independent clause, right? Independent clause. Dependent clause. And a phrase. Can everybody write those down? This is a short summary. And then the pieces of punctuation that associate with those pieces of punctuation that you need to know for this test, okay, are commas, semicolons, colons, dashes, dashes, and periods. And your only job is to know how each one of these items, right, how each one of these items relates to these guys. That's it. That's all you need to know. Okay? So does that all make sense? Does anybody have any questions on that? Any questions at all, guys? Okay, if you don't have any questions, and I'm going to leave this up here, but if you don't have any questions, you guys can start the lesson problems just below those in your book or on the digital copy. Owen, can you also mark down, I think it's on page 34 and 35, can you say punctuation homework? Guys, when you're taking these lesson problems just below that, stop when you get to the homework bubble. Okay, so stop when you get to the homework bubble. And Owen, can you write down, when you guys see the homework bubble, just stop. And Owen, can you write down punctuation homework as another item? And can you actually say to include this before they do that A11, those practice passages? Can you say punctuation homework? And that's on page 34 through 35 in the book. Okay? So guys, as soon as you get through these, so as soon as you're done working through these lesson problems that are just below, I want you to type in done in the chat so that we know you can move on, that we can move on. Thanks, Owen. That's great. Thanks, man. Okay, guys, again, you're working through these punctuation lesson problems. Punctuation lesson problems. Then we're going to go over these, and we're going to do one more A11 practice passage number 2. And after you guys are done with these punctuation lesson problems, please make sure that you let us know that you're done. You guys are about 1 to 2 more minutes here. Yana, Anna, how you guys doing? How's it coming with this stuff? Okay, done. Great. All right, guys, let's take a look at this stuff. Okay, so if you guys see this in the background, let's try to identify some of these questions. And again, if you did, the best part about punctuation is, do you guys all see how easy it is to identify? Because in every answer choice, you're going to see some form of punctuation. Okay, well, hopefully what everybody noticed, it says, after spending several years trying to grow a garden. This is very similar, right? After, it starts with after, meaning that this first part is a dependent clause. So we have that after spending several years, comma, and then Linda decided she'd rather just buy her produce from the store. If we read that by itself, oops, right? If we read that part of it by itself, guys, that's very clearly a full sentence, right? That's clearly a full sentence. And so we know the correct answer, after spending several years, we don't need any other commas, has to be B. Okay, let's look at this next one. Daniel, not a large man by any means, somehow seems to dominate our basketball games. So guys, in this one, it's a little trickier because in the actual written part of it, they don't give you the comma example. It's in the answer choices, but we know that it can't be G or H because that's a phrase inside of there. We just need to figure out if it's essential or non-essential. So if I cross this out, Daniel, right? Daniel somehow seems to dominate our basketball games. That makes general sense, unlike that Mr. Fermi example. So if that makes general sense, again, they're not going to question you on how essential it is. So the answer has to be J, right? Because we can take that part out, and because we can do that, it's non-essential, meaning we do need the commas to clarify that. Okay, so the answer would be J. Okay, how about this next one? You should watch the road, but you should also occasionally check your mirrors. Okay, so we see this word but, and then we see a lot of commas and semicolons in here, right? So it says you should watch the road. Is that a full sentence? Yes, right? Full sentence. Okay, but you should also occasionally check your mirrors. That's also a full sentence. So guys, this one's somewhat unfair. If you put B, actually no, it's not unfair, sorry. Right, because we have two full sentences, we need something, but we don't need this comma. So that tells us that if you put B, I was going to say that it's tricky because we haven't covered this idea that a semicolon and a conjunction, you don't need both. You need either the comma but, like you've always learned with compound sentences, or you need the semicolon but not both, right? So, but because of this comma here, we can eliminate B. And again, we can eliminate, and so we don't need this comma, right? That's the same comma in the answer choice B. And then A doesn't have a comma conjunction, so the only answer can be C. We'll talk more about that next week. So if you missed that one, I'm not too concerned because we haven't really covered that in depth. Okay, let's look at the next one. She skated with amazing skill and finesse. I don't think there's any reason we need a comma there, right? That's just one full sentence, right? That's just an independent clause. As though she had wings on her back. As though she had wings on her back, that's that dependent clause, right? And again, if it would have read, as though she had wings on her back, comma, she skated with amazing skill and finesse. But it doesn't read that way. It reads the opposite. So we do not need a comma. No comma needed, and so the answer just has to be J. She skated with amazing skill and finesse, as if, right, as though she had wings on her back. And then finally, the weather may seem nice now. This is number 5. The weather may seem nice now. In just a few weeks, however, the ground will be covered with snow. So guys, we see two commas surrounding this word however, and this is just a one-word modifier. If we see the commas, can I take out the word however and still have the sentence make sense? In just a few weeks, the ground will be covered with snow. It does make sense that way, right? It does make sense. Okay, so we can separate that with the two commas. It's a modifying phrase, and so the answer is just A. We need those commas to be there because the however is non-essential. It can be taken out, and the sentence will still make sense. Okay, guys, so how did you feel on those questions? Anna, Yana, how'd those go? How'd you feel on those? Terrible, great, not too bad. Thumbs up. Okay, guys, if that'll, and as you guys answer that question, okay, definitely need more practice. That's fine, yeah. As long as you recognize that you need more practice, that's okay. But it's up to you knowing this, and you're going to have the recordings available for the next year, right? So there's no reason why you can't go back and just rewatch these recordings or go back and continue to practice punctuation. And the best part about this is we're going to continue to give you practice problems as you go. so that you can continue to get better. Okay, is that cool? Does that make sense? Okay, guys, so the final thing that we're going to do today is we're going to jump back into that A11 test. So let's all, let's all go back to that A11 test. Anna, are you good to go here? Can you just give me a confirmation? And we're going to do passage number 2. But before we do that, what I want you guys all to do is I want you to recognize how important it is to do a warm-up. So that warm-up practice passage, you're probably not going to feel as comfortable on that first passage as you do now on the second passage after we've covered all this. So what I'd like everybody to do now before we do this, before we get into all of this, is I want you guys all take 5 minutes here to download StarU on your phones or computer or tablets, right? So that's App Store, Google Play. I'd like everybody to do this. Okay, so you guys all do this now. Okay, or you can log, if you're on a computer, you can find it on a desktop or laptop at www.staru.co. I'm putting those in the chat. If you guys click on those links, okay, if you guys click on those links or if you download it on your phone or if you already have a student account, that's great. I'd like you guys to set up a student account now. It takes like 2 minutes and I'll show you the reason why. So click on that link if you're on your computer, www.staru.co, whatever your student account is at the bottom. Okay, I'll show you guys here. If you guys log out here for a second. Your student account here at the bottom where you sign up, you can say sign up now there at the bottom, right? And then when you log in, the benefit to having this is that instead of having to do practice problems at home or stand in line while you guys are, you're getting nervous for the real test, all of that stuff we just did on punctuation is on your phone. It's in the app. So you can click punctuation as an example, right? It's all free too, so there's no reason not to have it. Okay, you can click, on the home page, you just click ACT, okay, and then ACT English, and now you can be doing practice problems on your phone as you're preparing, as you're standing in line for the real test. So can everybody give me a thumbs up if that all makes sense, and that if you guys have downloaded the app already, some of you have, because we've had you guys as students before, I just want you to log into your account, and I want you to just have it open so that we know that you're practicing. If you haven't created one yet, I just want you to click on either the link for StarU, www.staru.co, okay, or copy that into your web page, okay? And I want you to create this account because if you do that, then when you have it on your phone and download it as an app, okay, and you sign up for it, then you can just log in and be doing practice problems rather than getting nervous in line and talking about how you're going to fail the whole test. We've heard it all, right, from students. Rather than doing those things, you guys can be doing practice problems on your phone going into the real test so that you're warming up, so that you're doing effectively what we did on that first A11 practice passage, but you're doing it before you ever get into the room so you don't have any of this, you don't have this, kind of a letdown at the beginning of the test just because you're nervous and anxious and ready to start and not as focused as you are maybe in the middle of the test. Okay, guys, can you give me a thumbs up if you're doing that? Please have everybody do that now because I want you guys to make sure that you have access to it. Okay? And then you just click practice questions at the top, and I want you to do that now so I know you can simulate that like the real thing. Take 2 minutes to do that. It shouldn't take too long. And then just say good to go in the chat so I know that you guys have done that. Okay? And then after you guys are done doing that, after you've set that up, I want everybody to go back to that English test, that A11 English test, and we're going to go down to passage number 2. Okay, it starts with nature meets art. Okay, nature meets art. Whoops. Okay, and I want us to all go down there, and I want you to just like we practiced on these punctuation questions, I want you to pay attention to what's underlined. Particularly if it is punctuation, and I know that there are punctuation questions on here. Okay, this is the last thing that we're going to do today. It's going to be 9 minutes long. I'm sorry, it's 9 minutes long. Okay, and I want you guys to make sure that you're identifying what's underlined, particularly if it's punctuation, because these are so easy, right? They're so easy to identify. It's just a comma that's underlined, right, or a semicolon, or whatever it might be. Okay, you're going to get 9 minutes to do this, then you're going to be done. And then your homework is going to be to complete the punctuation homework, as well as those other 3 passages for the A11 test. and then you guys will have a video to watch. It's about 50 minutes to an hour long, and I want you guys to all watch it. And then Owen is the final piece of this. As they watch, as everybody watches that A11 video, on the YouTube video, so just below the YouTube video, in the comments section, I want everybody to type in 3 observations and 3 questions. If you could post that as another task. So as you're watching the video, 3 observations and 3 questions that you have of me while you're watching the video. What worked? What didn't work? Oh, I wanna make sure that I'm focused on this and I'm not, or I need to practice this. Whatever it is, I want you to comment those, and then we'll be able to know who's really completing the homework, who's paying attention, who's trying to maximize the class by seeing those comments come through on the video. Okay, so Owen, if you're good, if you're good with that, let me know. Otherwise, guys, let's great, perfect. Thanks, Owen. And then Owen, if you want to post that, that's it for the homework. So if you want to post everything that we just mentioned, you're good to go. And then, guys, this is the last thing that we're doing today. Let me start the timer. So you guys will have 9 minutes on the clock. We're on A11, passage number 2. Okay, continue to try to look for those underlined portions and figure out why they're underlined, what they're trying to test you on, and then see if you can make the correct edit or the correction right within the essay or within the passage. Okay, so you guys have 9 minutes, and your time starts now. Stay focused because you guys are done right after this, and you'll be good to go. Perfect. Thanks, Owen. Yes, you all guys in that Facebook classroom group, I won't talk too much, but the Facebook classroom group, Owen just posted the homework, so you guys will have all that, and we'll talk a little bit at the end of this. So, but the homework will be posted here. Hey guys, you have about 15 seconds left. Stay focused, you guys are doing great. 15 seconds. Okay guys, so that's it. Okay, so that's it. I hope everybody got a lot out of this. Did everybody feel okay? So we finished a little early. That's okay. There weren't a ton of questions. We always usually the class is going to end. Probably shouldn't tell you this, but usually the class is going to end about 15, 20 minutes early if there aren't a ton of questions. So that shouldn't be the standard. I don't want to deter you guys from asking all the questions that you can. I want you guys to continue to do as well as you can, to be as engaged as you can. But hopefully you got a lot out of that. Yana, Anna, did you guys feel like that was helpful in terms of seeing the English section? A lot of it is going to be, we're going to show you how to do this, but it's going to be a lot about you guys continuing to repeat these tasks and doing the homework and doing them to the best of your ability. And then I promise that your score will go up. This is a great introduction to what the test is going to look like. This class will be. I think you guys will get a lot out of it. I hope you will. And if you guys have any questions for us each week, don't hesitate to comment on the homework posts or any of the videos. Make sure that you guys are doing that. And then as Owen just posted, when you guys complete the final 3 passages of this A11 test, I want you guys to then go watch the video of me taking the exact same test. You'll have a chance to grade it as you go, obviously. But I want you to comment on that YouTube video with 3 questions and 3 observations so that I know that you're following along. Okay, so that I know then we can figure out who's participating, who's not, and I guarantee it happens every time that the students that are participating, that are really trying to figure out what they're missing or what they need to improve, those are the students that are going to do the best on the actual exam. Okay, guys, but if there's nothing else, you guys are doing a great job for the first class. Please make sure that you go back and watch those bonus classes if you haven't already, because they do a good job, I think, of talking about the scoring and how all the scoring breaks down. But otherwise, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and it will be on every Tuesday, same time, every Tuesday leading into that September test. So we'll be going throughout the summer, and there are a few breaks here and there, but we'll keep you posted on those, okay? Otherwise, guys, great job today. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Make sure you get that homework done. Make sure you comment on the video. Make sure that you do everything that you can to be continuing to prepare for this. This is the best time to do it. There's a lot of time. And yeah, guys, have a great week. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week on Tuesday. See you guys.